The palace trembles. Buckingham Palace is in utter shock. In an unprecedented move that has sent tremors through the monarchy, King Charles has reportedly stripped Queen Camilla of her title. Insiders claim a furious confrontation with Princess Anne was the final straw. What happened behind closed doors that forced the king's hand? Join us as we uncover the story of a royal reckoning that changes everything. The ancient, unyielding walls of Buckingham Palace, which have stood as silent witnesses to centuries of scandal, power struggles, and seismic historical shifts, are once again trembling. But insiders whisper that the crisis brewing within the gilded cage today is unlike anything seen before. A seismic decision, originating from the very heart of the House of Windsor, has reportedly sealed the fate of Queen Camilla, sending shockwaves not just through the monarchy, but across the entire world. Royal watchers are calling it a reckoning, a final sentence delivered in the dead of night. The palace is in shock, and wild speculation is running rampant as the title of Queen, so recently bestowed in a ceremony of breathtaking grandeur, is now said to be on the verge of being stripped away. The whispers began as faint murmurs in the glittering corridors of power, but they have now erupted into a full-blown catastrophe, threatening to shatter the monarchy's fragile balance. What could have possibly triggered such a dramatic and public fall from grace for a woman who has spent decades clawing her way from public outcast to crowned queen? Why would this be the sudden, brutal end of a journey so meticulously planned? The narrative unfolding is one of long-buried resentments, a violent collision between ancient tradition and modern ambition, and a power struggle so visceral it has forced a king to act against his own heart. At the center of this swirling tempest are not just King Charles and Queen Camilla, but the most unlikely of insurgents, the ever-stoic and dutiful Princess Anne, alongside the future King and Queen, the Prince and Princess of Wales. This is not merely a story about a title, it is a story about the very future and stability of the British monarchy. Join us as we peel back the velvet curtain to uncover the intricate web of events, the behind-the-scenes fury, and the powerful forces that have led to Queen Camilla's stunning eviction from the pinnacle of the royal hierarchy. The air within the palace is thick with unspoken judgments, a quiet storm impossible to ignore. Every tightened jaw and sidelong glance is a clue in a high-stakes mystery that has left courtiers speechless and the entire institution reeling. The weight of legacy hangs heavy in every room, as the ghost of Diana once again looms large over the House of Windsor, her memory a powerful, unshakable force in this modern-day drama. The monarchy's fragile balance is at a boiling point, and no one knows if it can withstand the fallout from this unprecedented royal reckoning. Stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind the glittering smiles, a truth that could shake the very foundation of the crown. To understand this stunning fall from grace, we must peel back the carefully constructed facade of royal unity and look at the deep, unhealed wounds that have festered within the House of Windsor for decades. This is not a new crisis, it is the brutal, inevitable eruption of a conflict that began long ago. The journey of Queen Camilla to the throne was never a fairy tale. It was a meticulously planned, decades-long campaign to rewrite history, a ruthless climb from the shadows of public disgrace to the very pinnacle of power. For years, she was the other woman, the thorn in the marriage of the beloved people's princess, Diana. Her name was synonymous with a nation's heartbreak, a symbol of a fairy tale shattered. The ghost of Diana is not a metaphor within the palace walls. It is an active, haunting presence. Her legacy is the sacred text by which the modern monarchy is judged, and her memory is a weapon that her sons, particularly Prince William, wield with fierce, protective loyalty. For William, his mother's suffering is the original sin of his father's reign, a wound that has never been allowed to close. Sources close to the Prince of Wales say that while he has performed his public duties with flawless dignity, behind closed doors, the ascent of his stepmother has been a source of quiet, simmering fury. He sees it as the final insult to the woman the world adored, the ultimate institutional betrayal. This is the emotional tinderbox that has been waiting for a spark. And now, it seems, that spark has been lit by the most unlikely of figures. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, has always been the embodiment of hard work and stoic duty, a woman who disdains palace intrigue and focuses solely on service to the crown. As a purist who believes in the sanctity of the bloodline and the ancient traditions of the monarchy, insiders claim she has long viewed Camilla's position as a constitutional anomaly, a personal indulgence by her brother that threatens the very integrity of the institution. She is the keeper of the old ways, the unshakable pillar of a system she now sees as being compromised from within. Her silence over the years was not acceptance. It was a quiet, brewing storm. The question was never if this conflict would explode, but when. Has the king's personal devotion to his wife finally collided with the unyielding forces of legacy and tradition? Has Prince William, the future king, finally drawn a line in the sand that cannot be erased? The stage is set for a showdown, a battle not just for a title, but for the soul of the monarchy itself. To comprehend the crisis of today, one must return to the seemingly triumphant day of May 6, 2023, the coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. While the world was mesmerized by a spectacle of unmatched pomp and ancient pageantry, beneath the carefully constructed facade of unity, the seeds of a bitter division were already being sown. Sources close to the royal family claim that the guest list and the roles assigned for that historic day were a major point of contention, especially for Queen Camilla's own loyal circle. For years, Camilla had relied on a small, fiercely protective group of friends and family who had stood by her through the darkest years of public vilification. Her sister, Annabel Elliot, and her children, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, had been her unshakable pillars. It was assumed their loyalty would be rewarded with a prominent place in the ceremony, a public acknowledgement of their role in her long journey. But what happened next sent the first shockwaves through her private world. The reality, according to insiders, was a painful and humiliating insult. Driven by King Charles's vision of a streamlined, forward-looking monarchy, many of those who had been instrumental in Camilla's ascent found themselves pushed to the margins, excluded from the core proceedings. A source familiar with the planning revealed the deep sense of betrayal. It felt as though Camilla's personal history and the people who were part of it were being sanitized for the grand narrative of the monarchy's image. It was a difficult pill to swallow. This perceived sidelining was viewed as more than a personal slight. It was seen as a calculated political maneuver to present a unified front focused solely on the direct line of succession, Charles, Camilla, and the Waleses. But this very strategy created its own storm of resentment, leaving Camilla's closest allies feeling betrayed and discarded at her moment of ultimate triumph. But they were not the only ones seething behind the glittering smiles. Keep watching, because what was happening with the future king will stun you. Behind his flawless public performance, the Prince of Wales was reportedly navigating a day of profound and visceral unease. Sources say that beneath Prince William's stoic exterior, a palpable rage was simmering, a fury that was impossible to hide from those who know him best. The coronation of his stepmother as Queen Camilla marked the culmination of a long and, for him, deeply traumatic journey. Above all else, William remains the fierce protector of his mother's memory, the late Princess Diana. To see Camilla crowned with a title that, in his heart, was destined for Diana was a knife twisting in old wounds on the world stage. A royal expert commented, "It was always going to be an excruciating day for William. His entire mission as Prince of Wales is to uphold his mother's legacy." The sight of Camilla, wearing the crown, felt like a final, institutional betrayal of that legacy. The coronation, intended as a symbol of a new, united era, had instead poured salt on old wounds and set the stage for a royal civil war. The reality of the coronation for Queen Camilla's inner circle was a brutal and public humiliation. For years, these were the people who had formed a protective shield around her, absorbing the slings and arrows of public contempt when she was the most vilified woman in Britain. Her sister, Annabel Elliot, had been her constant confidant. Her children, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, had endured years of cruel scrutiny tied to their mother's controversial past. They had been her unwavering defenders, the ones who stood by her when the world turned its back. In the lead-up to the coronation, it was widely expected that their unshakable loyalty would finally be recognized and rewarded on the grandest stage of all, They were supposed to be central figures, a visible testament to her personal journey and a symbol of the new blended family at the heart of the monarchy. But that is not what happened. Insiders report that as the plans for the slimmed-down ceremony were finalized, a cold reality set in. King Charles, in his relentless pursuit of a modern, efficient monarchy, focused squarely on the direct line of succession, made a calculated decision. Camilla's personal history, and the people inextricably linked to it, were to be minimized. They were not to be a major part of the sacred proceedings. For them, it was more than a snub, it was an erasure. A source close to the family described the atmosphere as one of profound shock and betrayal. They felt as if they had served their purpose, the source claimed. They were essential for Camilla's survival during the dark years, but now that she had the crown, they were being airbrushed from the official portrait of the monarchy. It was a deeply painful insult. This decision, made in the name of institutional pragmatism, was perceived as a heartless political maneuver. It sent a clear message. In the new world order of King Charles's reign, the past was to be sanitized. The messy, complicated, and intensely loyal relationships that had defined Camilla's life were now inconvenient footnotes in the grand, streamlined narrative of the crown. This act of sidelining her loyalists was the first crack in the facade of coronation unity. It created a pocket of deep resentment and anger that would fester behind the palace walls, leaving Camilla isolated at the very moment of her ultimate triumph. But no one was prepared for the storm that was brewing on the other side of the family, a storm of fury that would make this personal slight look like a minor tremor before a seismic earthquake. While Camilla's friends were left emotionally bruised by the coronation's cold calculus, an even deeper and more dangerous resentment was simmering within the future king. Prince William, the fiercely protective son of Princess Diana, was reportedly navigating a day of profound inner turmoil. To the world, he was the picture of regal duty, his performance flawless and his demeanor stoic. But behind the glittering smiles and royal protocols, sources close to the Prince of Wales paint a very different picture, one of a man struggling to contain a quiet, volcanic rage. The coronation of his stepmother was, for him, the final chapter in a long and agonizing story of personal betrayal. William's core mission, the one that defines his public and private life, is the unwavering protection of his mother's legacy. He is the guardian of her memory, and for him, to see Camilla not just at his father's side, but crowned as queen, with the same sacred rights that should have been his mother's, was an almost unbearable sight. A royal expert, speaking on condition of anonymity, stated, "For William this was never just about a title. It was about justice for his mother. Seeing Camilla anointed as queen was the ultimate institutional validation of the woman he holds responsible for his mother's immense suffering. It was a knife twisting in wounds he has spent years forcing shut. This was not about constitutional duty, it was personal." Palace insiders whisper that in the months leading up to the coronation, the tension between the king and his heir was palpable. While William understood the legal realities, he and the Princess of Wales were deeply concerned about the public perception. They are acutely aware of the undying love the public still holds for Diana, a particular brand of magic that has never faded. They feared that the king's intensely personal desire to elevate his wife to the highest possible status was a grave strategic error, one that could permanently damage the popularity and stability of the monarchy they are destined to inherit. His jaw was reportedly tightened throughout the ceremony, his fists clenched under his gloves. His silence spoke louder than words. He performed his duty to his father and to the crown, but the unspoken judgment in his eyes was impossible to miss. The coronation, meant to be a symbol of a new, united era, had instead become a deeply personal ordeal for the heir to the throne. It solidified a rift between father and son, planting the seeds of a confrontation that would soon shake the monarchy to its very foundations. To truly understand the depth of this crisis, one must acknowledge the most powerful force within the modern monarchy: the ghost of Diana, Princess of Wales. She is not a passive memory. She is an active, unshakable presence, whose legacy continues to dictate the emotional and political landscape of the House of Windsor. For both William and Harry, their mother will forever be the sainted martyr, the victim of a cold and unforgiving system, and the woman whose love they were robbed of. In their narrative, Camilla is not merely their father's second wife, she is the central antagonist in their mother's tragic story, the third person in the marriage who, in Diana's own unforgettable words, made it a bit crowded. This is not just a family disagreement, it is the foundational trauma upon which the current generation of the monarchy is built. According to palace insiders, the king's decision to systematically elevate Camilla from Duchess of Cornwall to Queen Consort, and finally, in a move that stunned many, to simply Queen Camilla was a source of profound and agonizing tension with his sons. They understood the constitutional mechanics, but they could not stomach the personal and public implications. Every step of Camilla's ascent was seen as a deliberate step to diminish the memory of their mother. The final act, her coronation as queen, was the ultimate point of no return. It was a public declaration that the woman who had caused their mother so much pain had not only been forgiven, but had been rewarded with the ultimate prize. For William, the stoic heir, and Harry, the emotional exile, this was an unforgivable act. They believe the institution they serve has a sacred duty to protect Diana's legacy, not to honor the woman they see as her rival. This deep, unhealed wound is the true source of the monarchy's current instability. The love the public holds for Diana has never waned. It is a powerful currency that William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales, now command. They are acutely aware that their own immense popularity is directly tied to their connection to the beloved people's princess. They know that any move that is perceived as an insult to Diana's memory is a direct threat to the future of the monarchy itself. The coronation, intended as a symbol of a new, united era, had instead become the final, public betrayal. It poured salt on the deepest wounds of the family and set the stage for a royal civil war, a war in which the ghost of Diana would be the most powerful weapon of all. Into this emotional tinderbox stepped the most unlikely of insurgents, Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. She has always been regarded as the unshakable bedrock of the royal family, a figure of immense respect and quiet authority. Often dubbed the hardest-working royal, she is renowned for her no-nonsense pragmatism, her iron discipline, and her ferocious dedication to duty. Unlike other royals who have been drawn into the drama of palace intrigue, Anne has maintained a singular, unwavering focus on service to the crown. Her public persona is one of stoicism, a woman who disdains the emotional excesses of modern celebrity and embodies the traditional values of the monarchy. This is precisely why her alleged involvement in the current crisis is so utterly stunning and has sent shockwaves through the palace. No one could have predicted that the Princess Royal, the ultimate traditionalist and royal purist, would find herself at the epicenter of a conflict that has reportedly rattled the monarchy to its very foundations and left her own brother, the king, reeling and exposed. For Anne, this is not about personal animosity or lingering resentments from the past. According to royal insiders, her concerns are far deeper and more fundamental. She believes in the sanctity of the institution as it has existed for 1,000 years. For her, the bloodline is paramount. In her uncompromising view, Camilla is queen by marriage, not by birthright, a critical distinction that her brother's romanticism has sought to blur. She reportedly views the deliberate move to drop consort from her title as a dangerous vanity project, a break with centuries of precedent that weakens the credibility of the crown itself. She is said to believe that the king's personal wish should not be allowed to override the historical and constitutional realities of the monarchy. Her resolve is not born of emotion, but of a cold, hard conviction that the very soul of the institution she has dedicated her life to serving is at stake. Her silence over the years was not an act of consent, it was the quiet before a gathering storm. And now it seems that storm has finally broken. The stoic pillar of duty has become the unexpected catalyst for a royal civil war, a conflict that could reshape the future of the House of Windsor forever. But what happened next, no one saw coming. The flashpoint, when it finally came, did not occur within the private guarded walls of Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. It happened in the semi-public arena of a formal academic ceremony at the University of London, a place where decorum and tradition are paramount. The setting itself was ironic. Queen Camilla was scheduled to receive an honorary doctorate in recognition of her extensive work promoting literacy, a cause for which she has genuine passion. As Chancellor of the University, it was the solemn duty of Princess Anne to bestow the award upon her. To the casual observer, the engagement proceeded as planned, a masterclass in the choreographed dance of public royal life. There were the requisite courteous nods, the formal practiced smiles, and the seamless procession that marks such occasions. But eagle-eyed royal watchers, those fluent in the silent, coded language of the monarchy, immediately detected a palpable tension between the two most powerful women in the room. A short video clip, later dissected endlessly online by royal commentators, captured a brief but telling exchange that set the tone for the day. As they prepared to enter the main hall, Queen Camilla, in a gesture of deference to the Princess Royal, gestured for Anne to proceed ahead of her. In the rigid world of royal protocol, Anne, as the daughter of the late Queen, holds a unique and revered status. However, Anne paused for a beat, her expression unreadable, before pointedly stepping aside and motioning for Camilla, as the current queen, to go first. To the uninitiated, it was a minor, perhaps awkward, exchange of pleasantries. But for those who understood the subtle power dynamics at play, it was a quiet but powerful challenge to the established hierarchy, a moment heavy with unspoken judgment. Anne's gesture was not one of deference. It was a cold, public reminder of the very order she was there to question. She was forcing Camilla to assume the full weight of a title Anne believed she did not fully deserve. The air crackled with a tension that no amount of pageantry could disguise. The smiles were fixed, but the eyes were cold. It was the first public tremor of the earthquake to come. A silent declaration of war played out in plain sight. But the real explosion, the one that would shatter the fragile peace of the monarchy, was yet to happen. It would take place behind closed doors, far from the prying eyes of the world. And what was said in that room would change everything. The true explosion occurred after the public ceremony had concluded. In the privacy of a grand reception hall, far from the prying eyes of cameras and the ears of journalists, Princess Anne did the unthinkable. She confronted Queen Camilla directly, with a brutal honesty that shattered the polite and suffocating facade of royal decorum. Eyewitnesses to the encounter, their identities shielded by the strict codes of palace protocol, described Anne's demeanor as coldly serene, her tone not of anger, but of the grim, unwavering determination of a surgeon delivering a dire diagnosis. Sources who have pieced together the events of that fateful afternoon agree on the substance of the conversation. This was not a negotiation, it was not a discussion, it was a statement. It was an ultimatum. While the exact words used remain a tightly guarded secret, the message was delivered with the force of a physical blow. Anne's words, though spoken quietly in the cavernous silent room, were sharp enough to cut through the tension, leaving Camilla visibly shaken and, for one of the few times in her life, utterly speechless. One former royal aide, with deep connections to the Princess Royal's household, described the confrontation as a moment of pure, unvarnished truth-telling. Anne is not one for dramatics, the aide explained. She deals in facts. And the fact, as she saw it, was that the monarchy was being damaged by a decision rooted in personal sentiment rather than institutional wisdom. She made her case not as a sister-in-law, but as a princess of the blood, a defender of the crown. The room reportedly fell into a profound stillness as Anne spoke. The few aides present were frozen, stunned by the sheer audacity of what was unfolding. The Princess Royal, the embodiment of duty and tradition, was systematically dismantling the very foundation upon which Camilla had built her new identity as queen. She was not just questioning a title, she was challenging the judgment of her brother, the king, and drawing a bold line in the sand. The confrontation was brief, but its impact was seismic. When Princess Anne turned and walked away, she left behind not just a stunned queen, but a constitutional crisis in the making. The quiet storm had finally erupted into a full-blown hurricane, and the House of Windsor would never be the same. At the heart of Princess Anne's dramatic intervention lies a deeply held, unshakable doctrine: the sanctity of the bloodline. As a royal purist and the daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, she is said to view the monarchy not as a flexible, evolving entity, but as a sacred institution bound by 1,000 years of history, tradition, and, most importantly, genetics. A former royal aide, who served for decades within the palace, offered this stunning insight. For the Princess Royal, it's quite simple. You are either born to it, or you are not. She believes in the mystical nature of the monarchy, the idea that the right to rule is passed down through blood, not acquired through marriage. In her view, Camilla is queen by an act of parliament and her husband's will, not by an act of God. According to sources, this is the core of the argument she delivered to Camilla with such devastating force. She is believed to have questioned not just Camilla's growing influence, but her very right to the unadorned title of queen. She reportedly argued that the historically accurate and constitutionally proper title was always queen consort, a title that clearly defines her role as the spouse of the sovereign, not a sovereign in her own right. The deliberate move by Buckingham Palace, at the behest of the king, to drop the word consort from official communications was, in Anne's eyes, a dangerous and misleading vanity project. It was a subtle but profound blurring of the lines, an attempt to rewrite the rules for personal reasons. Anne is said to have calmly but firmly laid out her case. The simplified title was causing deep and unnecessary discord within the family, particularly with the Prince of Wales. It was creating confusion among the public, who understand the distinction between a queen regnant like her mother and a queen consort, and, most critically, it was weakening the very institution she had dedicated her entire life to serving. She reportedly questioned whether the king's personal wish should be allowed to break with centuries of precedent, especially given the controversial and painful journey that had brought Camilla to the throne in the first place. The message was clear, cold, and absolute. For the good of the crown, a correction had to be made. This was not a personal attack, it was a doctrinal defense of the monarchy itself, and it was an ultimatum that the king, her brother, could not ignore. The fallout from Princess Anne's stunning confrontation was immediate and immense, sending seismic shockwaves through the palace and leaving King Charles in an agonizing, impossible position. News of the encounter, delivered with brutal efficiency by a shaken and humiliated Queen Camilla, reportedly left the king shocked, deeply wounded, and utterly exposed. He was trapped in a crossfire of competing loyalties, a man caught between the unwavering devotion to his wife, the great love of his life, for whom he had risked everything, and the unyielding, iron-willed traditionalism of his sister, a woman whose loyalty to the crown is beyond reproach. His personal happiness was now in direct, violent conflict with the perceived stability of the institution he was born to lead. Compounding his agony was the quiet but firm pressure emanating from his heir, Prince William. While the Prince of Wales had not been present at the university showdown, palace insiders claimed that his sentiments were perfectly aligned with those of his aunt. He, too, believed that the unadorned queen title was a grave misstep, a painful and unnecessary insult to his mother's memory that threatened to alienate a public still fiercely devoted to Diana. The king was facing a united front. His authority was being challenged not by enemies outside the palace walls, but by the two people who represent the unbreakable continuity of the monarchy, the steadfast keeper of its past, Princess Anne, and the destined guardian of its future, Prince William. For a monarch still finding his footing in the long shadow of his revered mother, Queen Elizabeth II, this was a crisis of monumental proportions. To defy his sister and son would be to risk a catastrophic and public family schism, one that could permanently damage his reign before it had even truly begun. But to capitulate would be to inflict a devastating public humiliation upon his wife, undermining her position and revealing his own authority as fragile and subject to the will of others. He was a king in crisis, his private affections pitted against his public duty. The walls were closing in, and every option carried the potential for disaster. The choice he would make would not just define his relationship with his wife, sister, and son, it would define the future of the House of Windsor itself. The pressure was immense, and a decision had to be made. In the end, the weight of tradition and the pressure from his heir proved too much to bear. Within days of the explosive confrontation, the palace rumor mill went into overdrive. Reports, seemingly leaked from the deepest and most secure recesses of the royal household, began to circulate with astonishing speed and certainty. King Charles, in a desperate bid to quell the internal insurrection and restore a fragile stability to his fractured family, had made an extraordinary and deeply painful decision. The palace, the reports claimed, would officially and immediately revert to using Camilla's full, formal title, Her Majesty, the Queen Consort. To an outsider, the difference may seem semantic, a mere matter of wording insignificant to the daily lives of ordinary people. But within the rigid, symbolic, and deeply hierarchical architecture of the monarchy, the chasm between queen and queen consort is vast, powerful, and profound. The change was nothing short of a public humiliation, a shocking and unprecedented reversal of a status the king himself had fought so hard and for so long to bestow upon his wife. It was the culmination of his life's great romantic quest, the final validation for the woman he loved, and now, under immense pressure, he was being forced to retreat. This was not a subtle recalibration, it was a surrender. The move has left royal watchers and the public absolutely stunned. Did the combined forces of Princess Anne and a determined Prince William truly push the king into a corner? Was this a painful but necessary compromise to his son and heir, a tacit acknowledgement that the long-term survival of the monarchy rests on the Prince of Wales's comfort and public approval? Or, as some more cynical commentators have suggested, is this a more calculated, strategic move? Could King Charles be using this crisis as an opportunity to reinforce the constitutional nature of Camilla's role, subtly distinguishing her from his sovereign mother, Queen Elizabeth II? While this perspective aligns with his stated goal of modernizing the institution, it seems to completely ignore the raw, personal, and deeply emotional essence of the struggle. For now, Queen Camilla has maintained a dignified, stony silence, but her silence is deafening, raising even more questions about her role in this dramatic climb-down. Did she agree to this realignment, or is this a quiet, graceful acceptance of a battle she has decisively lost? One thing is certain, this is a seismic turning point. The monarchy has long thrived on the illusion of unshakable unity. That illusion is now shattered, and the balance of power within the House of Windsor has been irrevocably altered. To truly grasp the magnitude of what Camilla has lost, one must trace the long, arduous, and meticulously planned road that led to her ultimate, and now contested, title. This journey reveals the deep-seated anxieties and compromises that have defined her position within the monarchy from the very beginning. When Camilla Parker Bowles married the then Prince Charles on April 9, 2005, the palace was navigating a public relations minefield of epic proportions. The ghost of Diana still loomed large, and for a vast portion of the public, Camilla was the unforgiven villain in a national tragedy. Consequently, her title was a matter of intense negotiation and strategic compromise. Upon marriage, she officially became Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cornwall. This was a significant title with a long royal history, yet a more contentious one was deliberately avoided. As the wife of the Prince of Wales, she was technically entitled to be known as the Princess of Wales. But in a move of calculated deference, both the palace and Camilla herself chose to forego it. That title was, and forever will be, inextricably linked to Diana. For Camilla to have adopted it would have been seen as an unthinkable insult, an act of erasure that would have triggered a public firestorm. This was the first of many concessions, a clear acknowledgement of the deep wounds that still scarred the nation. For years, the official line from Clarence House was that when Charles ascended the throne, Camilla would be known not as Queen Consort, but as Princess Consort. This was another significant break from tradition, a public surrender to the prevailing sentiment that the people would never fully accept her as queen. But as the years passed, Camilla's diligent performance of her royal duties began to slowly, almost imperceptibly, shift public opinion. The notion of Princess Consort quietly vanished from official communications. The turning point came in February 2022, during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. In a move of profound significance, Queen Elizabeth II herself delivered the ultimate blessing, stating her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when the time came. It was the final, unambiguous message of acceptance from the sovereign. When the Queen died, that wish was fulfilled. But the final, most crucial step was yet to come. In the weeks leading up to the coronation, Buckingham Palace began referring to her simply as Queen Camilla, a title that was solidified on the official invitation. Her crowning on May 6, 2023, was the pinnacle of her royal life, the final, irrefutable proof that she had overcome her past. To have that so publicly and humiliatingly walked back is not just a change in title, it is the undoing of a lifetime's work. The reversion to Queen Consort is far more than a symbolic blow. It represents a tangible loss of status, power, and the hard-won validation Camilla has spent decades fighting for. First and foremost, she loses the precious, carefully constructed sense of equality with her husband. The simple, unadorned title of queen positioned her as a co-equal partner at the apex of the monarchy, a powerful symbol of their enduring relationship and her central importance to his reign. To revert to Queen Consort subtly but powerfully re-establishes a rigid hierarchy. It defines her role entirely by its relationship to the king, making her an appendage to the sovereign rather than a near equal. In the intricate world of international diplomacy and statecraft, this distinction matters. Secondly, she loses a measure of her authority and influence. As Queen Camilla, she commanded a unique level of respect on the world stage. She was a powerful and recognized figure in her own right, playing a crucial diplomatic role during state visits and helping to shape the image of the modern monarchy. A title that is perceived, however subtly, as being of a lesser rank could translate into a diminished position in state affairs and a reduced say in the strategic direction of the royal family. But perhaps the most profound loss is the intensely personal and intangible loss of validation. For years, Camilla endured relentless criticism, cruel caricatures, and unkind comparisons to the eternally beloved Princess Diana. The unqualified title of queen was the ultimate vindication, the final, irrefutable proof that she had finally transcended her controversial past and earned her place at the very heart of the nation. To have that title publicly challenged and effectively stripped away is a humiliation of the highest order. It is a public declaration that, in the eyes of the traditionalist faction of the family, and perhaps even the future king, she will never be truly equal. No matter what the official reason given for the change may be, it is not merely a loss of rank. It is a fundamental shift in her perceived legitimacy, both within the palace walls and across the globe. Her long and arduous journey to the throne was never easy. And now, with her status once again thrown into question, the monarchy is plunged into another period of profound and dangerous uncertainty. The crisis is no longer just about what Camilla has lost, but about what the monarchy itself might lose as a result of this bitter and deeply personal internal struggle. The sudden and humiliating relegation of Queen Camilla has ripped the curtain away from the inner workings of the House of Windsor, revealing a family at a critical and dangerous crossroads. The crisis poses a fundamental question that will define the future of the crown. Is this a painful but necessary step towards a modern, streamlined monarchy? Or does it signal a deep and perhaps irreparable schism that threatens the very future of the institution? On one hand, this can be seen as a clumsy but determined attempt by the monarchy to align itself with the realities of the 21st century. The king's long-stated vision for a smaller institution with fewer working royals and clearer, more defined roles is well documented. In this light, clarifying Camilla's position as queen consort could be framed as a move towards constitutional clarity, reinforcing that her role is supportive, not sovereign. It could set a precedent for future royal spouses, ensuring the spotlight remains fixed on the monarch and the direct line of succession. But the other side of the coin is far more sinister and frightening. Instead of a planned modernization, this crisis may reveal a monarchy in deep distress, paralyzed by old grudges and competing egos. The alleged power play between Princess Anne and the Prince of Wales exposes a family unable to move on from the past. The War of the Waleses from the 1992 continues to haunt the House of Windsor, and this latest episode proves that the wounds have not healed but have instead festered. If a family faction truly forced the king into this decision, it reveals a monarch who is not fully in command of his own house. It suggests that his authority can be questioned and his personal wishes overridden by a powerful combination of traditionalists and his own successor. This perception of weakness could be devastating to his reign, especially as it unfolds under the long shadow of his mother's universally revered time on the throne. Furthermore, this public display of disunity is deeply damaging. The monarchy's strength has always been its ability to project an image of unshakable stability and unity in a constantly changing world. When the family is seen to be feuding over titles and precedence, it appears petty, out of touch, and irrelevant, especially when so many of its subjects are facing their own profound struggles. The future is now dangerously uncertain. This crisis has placed even greater pressure and responsibility on the Prince and Princess of Wales, accelerating their ascent as the institution's dominant power. It has shown that their vision for the monarchy may not align with the king's. As the dust settles, can they project a united front, or will these cracks continue to widen into an unbridgeable chasm? Do you think the king made the right decision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen, and you will enjoy it. Thank you for watching Majesty Uncovered. What do you think about this royal judgment? Was Princess Anne right to intervene, or did she overstep her bounds? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Majesty Uncovered and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on this developing story. We'll see you in the next video. Video description: a photorealistic portrait of King Charles III in his private study at Buckingham Palace. His face etched with deep conflict and emotional exhaustion. Slumped in a leather armchair, a single lamp casting long, dramatic shadows across the room, the weight of the crown palpable, ultra-sharp focus on his troubled eyes, as 16:9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A cinematic, tense medium shot of Princess Anne and Queen Camilla in a grand wood-paneled university reception hall, away from the crowds. Princess Anne stands rigid and stoic, her expression cold and determined, while Queen Camilla looks visibly shaken and speechless, her hand slightly raised as if in defense. Dramatic chiaroscuro lighting from a tall window, ultra-photorealistic, R16:9, S750, style RAW, Q2. An atmospheric shot of Buckingham Palace at night under a stormy dark sky, with a single light on in a prominent window, conveying a sense of crisis and isolation within the ancient walls. Cinematic mood, hyper-detailed architecture, photorealistic, R16:9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A subtle, ethereal image of Princess Diana's ghostly figure, slightly translucent, standing in the background of a grand, empty palace corridor, her expression sad and watchful, her presence haunting the opulent surroundings. Soft focus, cinematic lighting, photorealistic style, R16:9, S750, style RAW, Q2. An intense close-up of Prince William's face during the coronation ceremony, his expression a mask of stoicism, but his eyes betraying a deep, simmering fury, jaw tightened, capturing the unspoken conflict, ultra-sharp details on his military uniform, and the regal background. Photorealistic, R16:9.750 style RAW clash Q2. A symbolic, photorealistic image of a royal crown resting on a velvet cushion, but a deep, dramatic crack is forming down the center, light glinting off the fracture, symbolizing a divided monarchy. Dark and moody lighting, ultra-sharp focus, R16:9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A wide shot from behind the throne, showing King Charles looking out over an empty throne room, appearing small and isolated against the grandeur, symbolizing the immense pressure and loneliness of his decision. Cinematic and somber mood, photorealistic detail, ER16:9, S750, style RAW, Q2. Illustration image prompt 16:9, 1080p. Royal family, King Charles, Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, Prince William, Royal crisis, Buckingham Palace, Royal feud, Palace intrigue, Queen title stripped, Royal family news, House of Windsor, Princess Diana Legacy, Coronation Drama, British Monarchy, Royal Scandal, Queen Consort. SEO tags. English. A dramatic split-screen thumbnail. On the left, an intensely serious and angry Princess Anne stares forward. On the right, a shocked and crestfallen Queen Camilla. A glowing, jagged crack runs down the center between them, separating their portraits. Ultra-photorealistic, high-contrast, eye-catching colors. R16. 9A750, style RAW, Q2. An emotional, cinematic close-up of King Charles's face, one half in shadow, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek, looking burdened and defeated. The headline text, "The King's Betrayal," is emblazoned in bold, dramatic font, hyper-realistic detail. R16-9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A highly symbolic thumbnail showing Queen Camilla's crown shattering into pieces mid-air, with shards flying towards the viewer. The background is a dark, out-of-focus Buckingham Palace, creating a sense of explosive drama and finality. Ultra-photorealistic render, AR16. 9-S750, style RAW Q2. A powerful, photorealistic image of a faint, ghostly Princess Diana smiling serenely in the foreground, while a smaller, defeated-looking Queen Camilla stands in the shadowed background, looking over her shoulder at Diana. The composition clearly communicates Diana's ultimate victory, high emotional impact, M16-9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A high-drama thumbnail focusing on a single, accusatory finger from an unseen person pointing directly at Queen Camilla, whose face is a mask of shock and disbelief. The lighting is harsh and theatrical, like a spotlight in a dark room, creating immense curiosity and tension. Photorealistic, R16-9, S750, style RAW, Q2. Thumbnail prompts 16-9, 1080p. Engaging thumbnail concepts, generation summary. Channel name used, Majesty Uncovered. Opening hook, generated 10 to 20 second attention grabber. Total characters, 40052. Chapters generated, 15. Language, English. Knowledge sections applied, 12/12. Cultural elements preserved. Yes. Enhanced features, complete package ready.